Here's what you need to know to get started assigning roles and permissions to users in J1 Web registration.
Roles and permissions work differently in J1 Web compared to desktop. In each J1 Web role, you can switch individual permissions on or off, and you can make custom copies of the roles with different permissions enabled to assign to different people. So you can fine-tune permissions as much as you need.
So take some time to understand how it works in general before you set up the registration roles.
Watch the overview of J1 Web Roles and Permissions video.
And read the J1 Web Registration Roles and Permissions Transition Guide. It'll show you the big picture and all the details for setting up registration permissions.
Most of the registration roles are for administrators in the registrar's office.
The Registration Module Manager role has the most permissions. An admin in this role can have permissions for definitions, for managing other roles, for registration settings, academic periods, the registration process, competency-based education, the course catalog, and sections. They can also manage faculty, students, requisites, reports, and information that appears on various pages. The registrar's role is for those working most closely with student registration. It shares many permissions with the Module Manager role, but the registrar's role has permissions for clearances and overrides, entering grades, attendance reporting, transfer courses, and transcript requests.
The other administrative role templates include the Access to All Courses role, the Access to All Students role, the Override and Access Control role, the Process Manager role, and the Reporting Manager role.
The Department Head role template has permissions for courses in the department. It also has permissions for students in those courses, and it has permissions for overrides for those students.
The faculty role has permissions to view their own summary page and calendar. There are permissions to manage their courses, textbooks, grades, and attendance. There are permissions for various overrides. And there are many permissions for student information.
So that's a quick overview of the roles available, but you're probably wondering who should be assigned to each role.
Of course, department heads need a copy of the Department Head Course Access role, and faculty need a copy of the Faculty Access to Courses and Students by Course role. Registrars or their designees need a copy of the Registrar's role, and depending on staff size, can divide up these others: Registration Module Manager, Registration Override and Access Control, Registration Process Manager, and Registration Reporting Manager.
And we should also mention, there are two narrowly focused roles that registrars or their staff can use. One is Course Information Access to All Courses. This has permissions for managing all course sections, including attendance, overrides, and grading. The second is Registration Access to All Students. This role has permissions for student information.
Out of all these roles, which ones have permissions for actually registering and dropping students from course sections?
Although other roles have important permissions around registration, the only registration role templates that have permissions to register and drop students are the Registrar's role and the Registration Module Manager role.
And some schools allow advisors to register and drop students. There are permissions for that in the advising roles found on the advising roles page. Are there any other roles these users might need?
Good question. IT will already know this, but all J1 Web users need a J1 Web User role, and some may need a custom person management role to see some of the student information.
Right, and some users might need custom organization management, facilities user, or communication management-based roles.
Remember to make copies of the default roles and assign users to your copies. That lets you customize the permissions for various kinds of users, and it keeps the default role ready to make new copies.
The transition guide walks you through the steps to assigning the roles and setting up the permissions.
It guides you through each step of the process.
And it provides a handy reference to which roles have which permissions available.
The guide shows you the details, such as associating a department head to their specific department. It even shows you how to create positions and assign the roles to positions instead of individuals. That could save you time when there's turnover.
Now you're ready to get started with J1 Web registration roles. Go ahead and watch the General Roles and Permissions video. Then open the Registration Roles and Permissions Transition Guide and see how easy it is to assign roles and how powerful they are in giving people just the right access. I mean, these folks were born ready.
They're trained professionals.
They're skilled technicians. They're registration savvy.
This isn't their first rodeo.